destroyed and it's ruined, and then you have to start all over again. And honestly, where do you start? How do you start in this?
Tropical storm Ian continues its rampage across the southeast tonight, more than a day after first making landfall across the Florida west coast. After bombarding the west coast with several inches of rain and winds over 120 miles an hour, the storm has weakened and continues to move east, battering Orlando and Daytona Beach overnight Wednesday. President Biden spoke on the storm Tuesday.
We'll be there to help you clean up and rebuild, to help you get Florida get moving again. And we'll be there at every step of the way. That's my absolute commitment to the people of the state of Florida.
And Florida Governor Ron DeSantis early this morning.
The amount of water that's been rising and will likely continue to rise today, even as the storm is passing, is basically a 500-year flood event.
The question now is, where does the storm go from here? You can see the cone, as it's called, where meteorologists predict where this storm is going to go. And as you can see right now, it's back out in the Atlantic Ocean. It has left Florida. Ian's back out to sea. It's going to strengthen back into a hurricane overnight tonight before crashing back into South Carolina and just the tip of Georgia tomorrow afternoon. Even though this storm isn't on land, that doesn't mean that there won't be areas surrounded, especially in this orange and yellow, that are affected by the wind and rain. The cone simply just shows the eye of the storm, where the strongest part of this storm is going to be. Still a lot of wind, a lot of rain outside that area that will pound the southeast before it comes back to shore. Now, where does Pennsylvania come into all this? Well, we're still watching where this storm is going to go after it makes landfall. And if you've ever seen how meteorologists track these kinds of storms, they call them spaghetti models, a whole bunch of strands on a map, each strand representing a different model and different possible path. So the storm keeps coming inland. It hits South Carolina, heads up to North Carolina. It makes its way up to Kentucky and to West Virginia as a tropical depression. And you can see that's just Saturday morning. It hits North Carolina. Here's the map. Where does Pennsylvania come into all this? You can see it comes up through Florida and it just stalls right over West Virginia and Kentucky. We're getting rain as early as Saturday evening. That's when the rain's going to start to kick in. Not heavy rain by any stretch, but it just sits over us and sits over us and sits over us. The storm fizzles out over West Virginia. I mean, you can see this is, I believe, almost Monday. This thing's almost gone. Heavy stuff way off on the coast toward Boston and toward New England. That won't quite affect us, but it just locks the rest of this rain over top of West Virginia. Again, the heaviest part is going to be not over us. This is not going to quite be like the remnants of Hurricane Ida from last September, where we saw more than 5 inches of rain in a day. We're looking at much less, but the rain is going to last over a longer period of time. Storm Johnson, he'll have a further look at this weekend in his forecast coming up in about 10 to 15 minutes. For now, I'm Jacob Hitz. Back to Maddie and Carson at the desk.